Shalom, all praise unto Yahweh Shem Shai. Double honors to the apostles of JMS. Honest Jew brothers that be pushing his truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Okay, this is the video that I had promised in the previous video I did on the NatWest's negative interest rates. And like I said, this is not going to be no short video. Okay, and you know what you're going to see at the end of this, man, is that these markets, man, these so-called financial markets, of which they're nothing but just debt and moving around of debt. You're going to see that the ultimate end of it has to be a default, man. The ultimate end of it is going to be what we know is a global economic meltdown. Okay, as brothers have done videos in the past explaining all of these different factors about it. So you're gonna see through this video, hopefully, that the times we're living in right now, man, is the most financially volatile times that we've ever lived in. Okay, you got something like 19 odd trillion that the United States government owes to the elite banking families by way of the national is it the national fucked up. I'm supposed to know that, but basically the U.S. central bank, okay, by way of that, the Federal Reserve, there we go, the Federal Reserve, okay, which is a private entity owned by them elite banking families. You got it to where you got 19 odd trillion that grows and grows, and your tax dollars ain't ever gonna be able to pay that back. Okay, you got the same thing happening out here in Britain, so-called Britain. You got the Bank of England, okay, being the central bank out here. And you got it to where I think they're in about 7 to 10 trillion, but it's such a small country. Where is that all of those funds going towards? Those funds are going towards bringing forth, paying people to make weapons and so on and so forth, because that's the ultimate end of it as well, man. Okay, because the market's gonna crash, but that's just one chaos that's gonna come about these people, man. Okay, you got the chaos that's gonna be brought forth also too. And really, it's going to be in essence to fulfill the scriptures as spoken about within the book of 2 Peter, the 3rd chapter, as spoken about within Isaiah 24, Revelations, the 18th chapters, and so on and so forth, man. How Babylon's going to be destroyed. She's going to be destroyed by them ICBM nuclear missiles, man. Okay, but you're also going to have this, this money system, crash. Okay, and they want it to crash because they're gonna want you to bring forth the chip. Okay, these people, when they can't pay, when they can't live the lifestyle that they've grown accustomed to, the iPhones and the iPads and then, going to work and looking down on Jake and all of that. When they can't live that life anymore, they're gonna completely, lose it, man. Okay, so when the elite banking family say, okay, look, you can go back to that old way of doing things, okay, it's gonna have to take this chip. That's going to be an easy thing for them because they're going to see that as a technological advancement. But we know through the scriptures that you're not supposed to take that mark, okay, which is the mark of the beast, which is the RFID chip. We know we're not supposed to take that. So all of these indicated are all the steps leading towards that, man. Okay, so I'm going to premise it with some scriptures, with this scripture here. And like I said, this is not going to be no short video, okay. Hopefully I do the information justice, because like I say all the time, there's brothers out there that are more financially astute, in terms of financially aware, more aware of these finances. They're more astute in these financial studies than I could ever be. Okay, but I'm gonna do my best to try to do this material some justice. And I'm referencing a video that I had watched, which is up on Netflix, called Boom Bust Boom, and that's where I've got the vast majority of this information. But you could watch this and you could watch that or whatever. Either way, you're gonna see the same idea. You're gonna come to the same conclusion that this thing can't go on forever, man. Okay, it can't go on forever. It is impossible that it can go on forever. Okay, and you're gonna see certain mathematicians, okay, that I'm gonna I've got examples of, and they're gonna show you the same thing through the theories and hypotheses that they put forth, that for this neo-classical economic system that we're living in, booms and busts are all over the place, but ultimately the end is a default. Okay, so it says James 5:1. It says, go to now, you rich men, and weep and howl for your miseries that are come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your silver is cankered, all right, and rough, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and it shall eat your flesh as fire, and it shall eat your flesh as with fire, as it were fire, and ye have heaped treasures together for the last days. Okay, so these different elite banking families, man, they're getting to the end of their so-called reign, man. You know, with the Lord coming back. And this statement here, your riches are corrupted, talking about the so-called currency that they got out here. It all stems off of deceit, okay? Because you're not actually dealing with money, you're dealing with currency, and those are two different entities, okay? And then the scripture calls it silver, but really now ain't nobody really deals with silver and gold and all of that, okay? Unless you're one of them elite banking families, which is the joke of it, because they, you know, that's the area on the areas. You got people, you know, walking around looking down and calling, you know, the men of the Lord bums and so on and so forth. But really, they're bums as well, because you're not dealing like these elite banking families deal. These elite banking families deal with gold and silver, man, and trading of people. Too, I believe the book of Revelation speaks about that. Okay, so let me get into the first article. Like I said, it's not going to be no no short video. Okay, so it says steps to a bubble, and then like I say all the time, we're living one of the most inflated bubbles that you've ever seen in history, man. Okay, what comes to mind? The next to 0% interest the Bank of England is issuing out to the banks that borrow off of it, man. Okay, and they're talking about it going, you know, damn near negative. Okay, you're talking about also, you know, you got the same thing out there within with the Federal Reserve. Okay, you got all of these different countries in, you know, that follow the so-called neoclassical financial model, and they're all in all kind of heaps of debt. But you got it to where these people are buying and buying and buying and borrowing and borrowing, okay, which is the bubble that we live in, okay. But with all bubbles burst, man, okay. All of these bubbles, all of these economic bubbles, they're gonna burst, man. All right. You ain't just gonna manufacture and manufacture and manufacture, and people just gonna buy and buy and buy, and until we have, you know, the iPhone 50 or whatever, man. Okay, we're at the end of this thing, man. Okay, so it says the term bubble is a financial in the financial context generally refers to a situation where the price of assets exceeds its fundamental value by a large margin. Okay. Now, what comes to mind? You talk about the housing market, right? London is a good example, because you have a house that maybe cost them 50, maybe even cost them 100 grand to build. Okay, you double the cost. Well, everybody's paid once the cost has been doubled. Okay, but they want to charge you what, 10 times the amount it's cost them to actually build that, if those numbers even stand. Okay. So you got what? You got what's known as a financial bubble, because the fundamental value of that house, and that's the same case in all of these so-called high-priced metropolis cities. All right, New York, all right, Miami, London, and so on and so forth. All right, Dubai, and so on and so forth. The fundamental value of what you're buying, you might be buying 4 rooms out there within the central, not even 4 rooms, sorry, a room. You know, you get them so-called bankers. They buy them small flats out there on the Barbican, you know, near the Thames and all of that, and they might drop a mil and a half for what's fundamentally just 4 walls. Okay, all right. It says during the bubble, the prices of financial assets or assets class are highly inflated, bearing little relation to the intrinsic value of the asset. Term asset price bubble, or financial bubble, or speculative bubble, and that's an important word, because that goes into economic euphoria. All right, and the fact of economic euphoria leads to what? Deregulation. So you got it to where all of these so-called governmental financial governing bodies, these financial governing bodies, they get pressured into deregulating the markets. And then by way of that deregulation, and by way of that economic euphoria, all right, you get what's known as a burst, man, a bang, man. All right, why? Because you had this to where this bubble, right, has been growing and growing and growing. All right, and then and all of a sudden people are gonna realize, wait, hold on a minute, this actually means nothing. Now I've got a great example of, well, really two examples of that. Dealing with a crash like that, because you had this situation happen out there within, and this is going back a long time, but it's a good example, because there was just tulip bulbs, man. All right, so I'll read this example. I'll go back into that, but I'll read this example first. So I'll define these terms, all right, and then I'll go into this example. So it says here, the euphoria around the economic booms often obscures the possibility of a bust. Okay, so people get led into believing, this ain't gonna, and that's how we reiterate this information to these people out here. They're gonna look at us like we're fucking crazy, man. Okay, because they're in that economic euphoria. They have no problem spending XYZ on a house, in what they're terming, what's the exact term, in that speculative bubble, man. They have no problem doing that because they're in that zone, man. Right? Like the scripture says, man. It's like darkness has covered the whole world, right? Or the more. All right. And that boom, the booms that we're living in right now, these so-called economic booms, that's like a darkness over these people. Because as long as Jake is getting some kind of FRNs within his back pocket, he's not thinking about the Lord. All right. That's why the scripture says that the meek shall inherit the earth. Because if you're poor, man, all you got is the Lord, man. And I'll be honest, man, all you do really have is the Lord, man. Okay, I can't trust these damn different Edomites for these different jobs that they might give you. I can't trust in that, man. And you go and you work for this, man. You do all kind of hard work and look at you sideways, man. All right, as if to say, look, we might give you the cut tomorrow. So your trust not only has to be, but it's in your own interest that it is in your heart by Shim outside. Okay, so it says here. All right, euphoria around the economic booms often obscures the possibility of a bust, which explains why leaders typically miss the warning signs. All right, now, we already know that these elite banking families, they're actually the ones pulling the strings all over the world. So they will have it to where, because they're learned people, so they will have it to where a bubble. Or a speculative bubble around the housing market, the car market, or whatever is forcibly induced upon the people, man. So they'll be watching, things on the television and the TVs telling them, look, this is good to buy, whatever and whatever, right? And they'll create this big bubble that we're living in just to crash it so that they can bring forth the chip. Okay, so let's go into the term deregulation. All right, it says, what is deregulation? Deregulation is the reduction of or the elimination of government powers in particular industries. So if we're talking about the market, the financial market, or the stock market or whatever, we're talking about the money industry. Okay, when you have deregulation within investment and so on and so forth, you have it to where people get away with a lot more stuff. Now, what comes to mind is where you had them subprime loans prior to the 2008 crash, and what did you have? You had it to where by way of this economic euphoria, all right, or this speculative, bubble, and also what comes to mind is this term, this trading on margin, which is an important term. I'll refer to this a little bit later on. You had it to pay where people are taking out all kind of money to buy houses and so on and so forth, and that's what caused, that was part of the reason why they caused the crash, man. Okay. They were buying these houses that the people that were issuing the loans did not even know they knew that they couldn't afford those houses, man. Okay? And then when they had, given out the loans, that debt, okay, that debt would then get sold to another company and get packaged up with other, other assets and so on and so forth. So you really didn't know what was a good asset to buy or a bad asset to buy, right? In terms of, investing on stocks and so on and so forth. So you have people, who thought they had all kind of millions and millions of pounds in terms of stocks, but really they had invested in someone's debt or something like that. And when the crash came, ain't nobody, we have people jumping off of out of buildings because they lost so much money, man. All right. Now, but we're getting into that same zone again now, man. But see, this time it's gonna be worse because really, what happened in 2008 really never stopped. It just slowed down a bit, man. Okay. You're still on that downward spiral in that post 2008 crash, and you really never really recovered, man. America can't go back to its glory days as in prior to 2008 crash. You had it to where all kind of cities are now not even the same, man. Okay, the stock market is not really the same. They getting through it, but it's not really the same thing, man. Okay, all right. Now we're gonna have it to where this crash is gonna happen this time around. That's gonna be the thing, man. But what's gonna be even greater than that is the destruction that Yahweh Hashem is gonna bring forth by way of Russia, Iran, and so on and so forth. Now, if the crash never comes, so what? The Most High is still gonna destroy this place by way of those ICBM nuclear missiles, man. But the maths, the numbers indicate that you're gonna get one of the greatest crashes ever, man. Now, can I tell you when that date's gonna be? I can't tell you when that date's gonna be, but I can tell you it's most likely gonna be coming, man. If not that, then the nuclear missiles, man. Okay. So I had finished with that. Let's go to this example I had with the tulip examples. So round about this time, if I remember the exact, they're gonna go into it. So it says that and this is dealing with 1634 to 1637. So we're talking about a 3-year span. It says the market declined from the peak to the bottom. The number is difficult to calculate, but we can tell you that at the peak of the market, a person could trade a single tulip. All right, we're talking about flowers here. Okay, just a tulip, something that grow in your garden. A single tulip for an entire estate. And at the bottom, right, a tulip was the price of a common onion. Okay, and that goes into that word I was speaking about, man, the economic euphoria. Now, when you watch the documentary that I've based this information off, all right, I watched it, I did my own research, and I came to the same conclusions that they come to because I did my own synopsis. All right. So when you watch it, they go into this, with pictures and so on and so forth. I can't really, I'm not really gonna have the time to do the post production or anything like that. So you're just gonna have to have it raw, all right. But the information is there, man. Okay. So you had it to where the price of a tulip was like an entire estate, man. It says a person could trade a tulip for an entire estate, just a tulip bulb, because people believed that was something of worth. Okay. And it says. 1593 tulips were brought from Turkey and introduced to the Dutch. It says the novelty of the new flower made it widely sought after and therefore fairly pricey. Just a perception, okay, right? Exceeding what's the term they use there? Exceeding speculative. Where am I now? I want to use the exact words that they use, but nevertheless, you got it to where people were basically thinking of those things as being more pricey than they really were, man. All right. And it says, and the tulips contracted a non-fatal virus known as mosaic. It says, which didn't kill the tulip populations, but altered them, causing flames of color to appear upon the petals. And it says the color of the pollen came in a wide variety, increasing the rarity of a already unique flower. It says, thus the tulips which were already selling at premium began to rise in price according to how their virus altered where valued or desired. It says everyone began to deal in bulbs. Okay, essentially speculating on the tulip market, which was believed to have no limits. It says the true buyers, the garden setters or the parts, began to fill up inventories for growing their season and depleting the supplies further, increasing scarcity and demand. Soon prices were rising so fast and high that people were trading their land, their savings. Okay, and that's what you got people doing now, man. But they're doing it for cars and houses and so on and so forth. Okay, same principle. Okay, what you're paying for the actual asset exceeds the intrinsic, it exceeds the actual value of that product, man. All right, and it says and anything else that they could liquidate to get more tulip bulbs. And says many Dutch persisted in believing that they would sell their hoards for hapless and lighted foreigners, thereby reaping enormous profits. Somehow the originally overpriced tulips enjoyed a 20-fold increase value in 1 month. It says, needless to say, the prices were not an accurate reflection of the value of the tulip bulb. It's just like how you got it right now. All right, and it says, as it happens, in many speculative bubbles, which we are in, them speculative bubbles, people loaning out all kind of stupid, ridiculous amounts of money, £1 million mortgage on houses and so on and so forth, man. Okay, some prudent people decided to sell and crystallize their profits. A domino effect of the progressively lower and lower price took place as everyone tried to sell while not many were buying. It says the price began to dive, causing people to panic and sell regardless of losses. It says dealers refused to honor contracts, and which you're gonna have a lot of them. Hey, them elite banking families, they ain't gonna honor them contracts that they have with you people, man. All right, where you go, this dude owes you a house or whatever. They gonna look, we're gonna repossess you. You know, you're gonna get out of here now. That says, and people began to realize they traded their homes for a piece of greenery, and panic and pandemonium were prevalent throughout the land. And that's what's going to happen in this time, man. But this time it's going to be even greater, because we're talking about the whole global economy. This is a microcosm of what's going to happen, man. All right. And it says the government attempted to step in and halt the crash by offering to honor contracts at 10% of the face value, but then the market plundered even lower, making such restitution impossible. It says no one emerged unscathed from the crash, and that's what you're gonna have this time. No one's gonna be unscathed from this crash, man. All right, people gonna be losing businesses, people gonna be losing homes, people gonna be losing, you know, their so-called prize items in life, man. And I said, you know, more fool them, man. Okay, you wanted to spend, you know, X, Y, Z, right? And you really became a part of the problem. Really, you became the in my opinion, I believe these peons really are the former of these problems, man. Because you're not gonna have banks offering subprime loans if people were just willing to just rent and live like, you know, kind of like how people did in the past times. And really, you would have it to where house prices would deplete if people were more, you know, really didn't care about it. But because people want houses and they want the prestige of owning the home, well, people are like, okay, so we can get some money out of this. Let's bump the price up, man. Okay, so the housing market is gonna play a major role in this forthcoming crash as well, man. In my own humble opinion, it says that even the people who had locked in their profits by getting out early suffered under the following depression. So they had a depression after this. All right. So let's get back onto this. The steps of the 5 steps of a bubble. I'll try to go through this as quickly as possible. And it says bubble characteristics. A basic characteristics of bubbles is the suspension of disbelief. Okay, all right. By most participants during the bubble phase, there is a failure to recognize that the regular market participants and other forms of traders are engaged in a speculative exercise, all right, which is not supposed to be, which is not supported by the previous valuation techniques. Also, bubbles are usually identified only in retrospect after the bubble has burst. Okay, so that's a heavy paragraph right there, man. A lot is said in that paragraph, but what really stands out is this statement here. Right, because we're out there all the time telling you, look, your money system's done. Okay, you're about to go to war with Russia and China and Iran. Okay, we're telling you all of this, but people they're not gonna realize that, man. In fact, that's all damn near prophetic, because it says here bubbles usually identified in retrospect after the bubble has burst. Okay, so these people gonna realize what kind of time that they were in. All right, after this bubble's burst, man. All right, it says in most cases an asset price bubble is followed by a spectacular crash in the price of securities in questions. All right, in addition, the damage caused by the bursting of the bubble depends on the economic sectors involved. But this crash is coming. You got it to where all of those, every facet of the economic sector, right, is built up of this neoclassical what's the term that they used? Try to find the exact term that they used. Right, this neoclassical economic model, man. All right, so you got economic euphoria all over, in all of these different sectors. So, hey, you saw the everybody experienced the results of China when they said, look, pretty much we've slowed down production. The whole world felt that, man. Okay, the whole world felt that. So, hey, you can only imagine what's going to happen by when all of these different things link up together, and they're gonna link up together, man. All right, it's gonna be like 10, 20 times worse than what you had in 2008. All right. And so it says, in addition, the damage caused by the bursting of the bubble depends on the economic sectors involved. Like I said, all of these different economic sectors is going to be involved because all of these different economic sectors have an element of economic euphoria in them. All right. And also whether the extent of the participant is widespread or localized. When we're talking about a global global economic euphoria based on debt, all right, based on people trying to buy stuff that they know that they can't afford, but they still gonna buy it anyway, all right. And not only did you have to wear it in a micro, we're not just talking about the microcosm of you and me buying something. We're talking about countries doing the same thing, man. All right. It says for example the bursting of the 1980s bubble in Japan led to a prolonged period of stagnation for the Japanese economy, and we're in that stagnation by way of that 2008, regardless of what these people say, man. And it says, but since the speculation was largely confined to Japan, damage wrought by bursting of the bubble did not spread right much beyond its shores. It says you got the tulip bubble, which I've mentioned. Okay, I'm gonna read this a little bit of this now, and then I'll read the rest. Okay, and this is dealing with Minsky's theory of the modern day economic what do they call it, neoclassical economic model. Okay, so which basically goes into he basically said that you have periods of bubbles and bursts. So you got people saying, no, this economy is not going to crash, but here it is, you got economics telling you, look, the only way this works is you got bursts, booms, and busts, man. All right. So it says here, the economics Hyman P. Minsky is certainly no household name. Now he's not a household name because really his theory goes into the fact that you was always going to have financial instability, man. All right. So if you got an economist telling you that you can prosper, hey, you're gonna put that you're gonna make that a household name. But if you got someone really speaking the truth, all right, they're gonna put that in the in the back. It says, however, thanks to the credit crisis and recession in 2008, Minsky's theory of financial instability attracted a great deal of attention and gathered an increasing number of adherents. More than a decade after his passing in 1996. It says Minsky was one of the first economists to explain the development of the financial instability and its interaction with the economy. His book Stabilizing an Unstable Economy was considered a pioneering work. Okay, so I'm gonna get into that theory a little bit later on. So it says Minsky identified 5 stages in a typical credit cycle, right? Displacement, boom, euphoria, profit taking, and then panic. All right. So it says displacement. It says a displacement occurs when investors get more enamored by a new paradigm. All right, such as innovating new technology or interest rates that are historically low. Okay. All right. Let's read that again for the harder hearing. It says a displacement occurs. So the first sign of the 5 steps of a bubble. This is the first step. It says a displacement occurs when investors get more enamored by a new paradigm. So you got investors, people trying to set up businesses and so on and so forth, such as a new innovative technology. So the railways and the example of a railway crash. That's all up in there as well. And people were selling, people were giving away all of their money to get a chunk of that shit, man. All right. And it says a new technology or interest rates that are historically low. Now, what did I just, what did I say in the last video that I just did? All right, concerning NatWest, that the Bank of England, right, the 0.5 interest rate that they've got at the minute is historically low. Okay, it's most historically low. Okay, so that they're at the first stage of that displacement. Really, we're way down that. We're in that, we're just before here, man. Okay, we're at that point. All right. So it says here, the broom price, right? So we can read this. And it says a classic example of displacement is the decline in the federal fund rates from Mexico in 6.5% in May to 1% in June 2003, a period of 3 years. Right, over this 3-year period, all right, the interest rate on the 30-year fixed mortgage fell by 2.5% points to a historic low of 5.21, showing the seeds of our housing bubble. Okay, and what's the Bank of England trade? What's their interest rates at the minute? They're at 0.5. Okay, all right. So they're saying the example in Mexico was 6.5. But they're saying that what's the number showing us? That the Bank of England is actually way lower than that. It says 0.5, man. It's historically low, man. Okay, and then you have what? You have a boom. It says prices rise slowly following a displacement. But the gain momentum as more and more participants enter into the market, setting the stage for a boom phase. During this phase, the assets in question attracts widespread media coverage, and fear of missing out on what could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, right, spurs speculation, right, and joining an increasing number of participants. This is euphoria. During this phase, caution is thrown to the wind, all right, and as assets prices skyrocket, right, the greater fool theory plays out everywhere. It says valuations reach extreme levels during this phase. All right, for example, the peak of the Chinese real estate bubble in 1989 in Tokyo, land in Tokyo sold for as much as 139,000 per square foot, for more than 350 times the value of the Manhattan property. Manhattan property. It says after the bubble burst, real estate lost approximately 80% of its inflated value, while stocks plummeted 70%. Similarly, at the height of the internet bubble in 2008, the combined value of all technologies on stock market on stocks on the Nasdaq were higher than the GDP of most nations. Okay, but it says during this phase of during the euphoric phase, new valuation measures and metrics are touted to justify the relentless rise in prices. Okay, and what you usually have at this point, you have deregulation, man. So the government steps in and deregulate the market, allow people to move, however they want to move, man. All right, let's go back to where am I? Okay, so I'm here. All right, so let's carry on with this now. It says profit taking. It says by the time the smart money heeding warning signs, by this time the smart money, all right, heeding the warning signs, is generally selling out positions and taking profits. It says, but estimating the exact time when a bubble is due to collapse can be difficult. Exercise an extremely hazardous to one's financial health, because as John Maynard Keynes put it, the markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. All right, so that's what you're seeing right now. We're sort of at this stage where people are taking in profits, and you're like, oh man, I could get involved in this, man. I can make money in Babylon. I can make money in this, and that's what Nate's saying. That's what Nathaniel 7 is saying. I'm on bigger things. My mind is elsewhere, because he is in the economic euphoria that he has set up by way of what? By way of selling, really trying to sell this truth, right? And he's trying to profiteer off of that. But what you gonna have? What's gonna happen when all of this panic breaks loose, man? Okay, what's gonna happen when all of that bubble bursts, man? Okay, all of them people are gonna hope that the Most High has mercy on them and they learn this truth from GMS. Otherwise, they're gonna be destroyed, man. Okay, it says note that it only takes a relatively minor event to prick a bubble, but once it's pricked, the bubble cannot inflate again. All right, it says in August 2007, for example, French bank BNP Paribas halted withdrawals from 3 investment funds, right, with substantial exposure to the U.S. subprime mortgages because it could not value their holdings. All right, so because one of the reasons they couldn't value their holdings is because all of their holdings was a mishmash of financial packages coming from subprime loans, coming from good investment, coming from bad investment. They can evaluate. This is while the development initially rattled the financial markets, it was bruised aside over the next couple of months as the global equity markets reached new highs. In retrospect, this is relatively minor event was indeed a warning signs of the turbulent times to come. All right, and we're seeing these little things happening, these little market crashes here. China's stock market crashes. The British stock market crashed twice after the Brexit. Was it twice? Maybe even more times. All right, on the opening of that Friday, man, it crashed, man. Okay, because you have people, I want to get out of this. I want out. All right, but you still got people still thinking that they are in that profit taking time, man. Okay, rather they really think they're in a euphoria time. Really, this is the time where you take your assets out. Cut your losses, man. I'll be damn honest. You ain't gonna have it to where houses price is gonna increase that much more, man. That's not gonna happen, man. Okay. So it says panic, in the stage, right? In the stage, asset prices, rather more in this stage, asset prices reverse course and descent as rapidly as they ascended, even if not more so. It says investors and speculators faced with margin calls and plunging values of their holdings now want to liquidate them at any price. And it says as supply overwhelms demand, asset prices slide sharply. It says one of the most vivid examples of the global panic is the financial market occurred in 2008, weeks after Lehman Brothers declared bankruptcy and Fannie Mae. It says Freddie Mac and AIG also collapsed. All right, we're talking about major banks that just look. That's it, man. All right, and it says and plunged almost 17% that month. Right, its ninth worst monthly performance in a single month. All right, so pretty much with this article, that's I'll stop it there. You can reread that stuff, and there's a lot of examples there that you could really pick out and do an individual or video on. All right, so I'm gonna move on to the next article, which is the neoclassic economic model, which is what most economic strong economies, so-called economies, are built upon. It says the neoclassic model rests on a few assumptions which are highlighted in the passage. Now, when you read these assumptions, all right, and this is what these so-called bankers work off of to justify that these things are not going to happen, that all of this is not going to happen. Okay, but the reason they do is because the model they use to set up these economies, right, is based on assumptions that are non-existent, man. All right, it says how can the economy allocate resources most efficiently? It says we call this a freely competitive market, and says and a system of such markets is called a market economy. It says the basic message of the neoclassical economics, furthermore, is that economic efficiencies and economic progress are maximized by ensuring the market works freely and competitively. How is this achieved? All right. Finally, if the market works badly, the government has the duty to the individuals to correct this. Right. In the jargon, the government must intervene to correct market failures, but this is only just but this is the only justification for such interventions. Next, we look at each assumption required to produce a freely competitive of a perfectly competitive market within neo-economics. So these are the assumptions that go into place when these different economies are set up. So this is rationality, perfect knowledge, diminishing returns, right? Equality of sales and purchases, unique equilibrium, right? Many participants with freedom to enter and leave the market, and it says independence of demand and supply. So, I'll read a little bit of it, but really, this is the main bit that I wanted to get into, because the rationality bit, if we're talking about most of these, if not all of these economies are set off of this model, well, the first assumption that comes into place is rationality. It says the first assumption made is that people are rational and prefer more valuable goods and service or leisure to less. Okay, and it says, I'll go back to that. People are rational. Okay, but people are not rational. All right, you give them money, they're gonna spend it on irrational things. So the first assumption that comes into play by way of this so-called neoclassical economic model that's applied throughout the whole world is actually, is not true for the vast majority of people. It says, remind yourself of the Balding 1970 said about economic man that the clod against the clod as against heroic man. Well, rationality means we assume all economic agents are clods, right? A clod is in case your dictionary does not say, is a lump of glass and soil, man. All right. Does this sound reasonable? All right. It doesn't sound reasonable. All right. And when you watch this documentary that I had mentioned, man, it gets into it, because it's like all of these assumptions that which I'm not going to go into in the interest of time, because I think I've been recording for quite a while now. All right, all of that's not really, all of these assumptions, really, you can't. They work in that model, all right, and they do it just for the model to work, but really it doesn't work in real life, man. All right, so let's go into this next article. So I read that. All right. Now I had this. I thought this was an interesting because this happened just recently, and it goes to show you just how unstable this market is. And it says Nintendo shares because they got this, this I don't know where this craze came from. I'm not really involved in it. I don't know nothing about it. But it says Nintendo shares plummet after, because people had that economic euphoria, man. They wanted to buy shares from Nintendo because they thought Pokemon Go, this thing that these kids are on, right? They thought Pokemon Go was made by Nintendo, man. Okay, so I thought that was an interesting point to point out in there, right? Because that is that's part of all of those those stages that people go through, all right? And then you get it to what? You get it to where ultimately, I'm not saying that's not gonna cause no crash. That's a minuscule thing happening, but that's a good example of what could happen, man. All right, let's say they had thought that for an extended period of time. Let's say this wasn't games. This was how the housing market, for instance. Okay, the minute they had come to that realization, man, that plummet could have ricocheted throughout the whole four corners of the earth, man. So that's a microcosm of what's going to happen in a not too distant future. Now, this is interesting because we're talking about all of this. We're talking about all of this. This displacement, all right, where investors gets enamored by a new paradigm, such as innovative new technology, which that was the so-called new innovative technology that they had at that time, all right. And then it says here, all interest rates, right, that are historically low. Okay, now we have it to where when interest rates are historically low, like the time we're living in, you have a lot of people buying on margin, which leads even further to their own demise. All right. Now I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read through this quickly, and then I'll read a little bit of that, and then I'll call it. That should be it. That should, you get the gist of what's coming to this place. It says the basics. Buying on margin is borrowing money from a broker to purchase stocks. Okay, so when investment, you got it to where interest rates is low, you could do that, man. Okay, all right. So they get into debt to buy somebody else's debt so that in the hope that they can sell that by way of what? But by way of what they calling that euphoria, thinking that price of whatever you're buying is gonna be even greater. Now, when you go into what happened in that 2008 period, man, people done lost a lot of money because they had already taken out debt. They'd already taken out debt to get those stocks or whatever they had invested in. Okay, hey, you think about a mortgage. A mortgage is buying on margin. Right, you've taken out $100,000 loan, and you're gonna pay for this house, and now the bank owns it, and you have to pay back the house they pay the price of the house to the broker, the bank owner. All right, in the hope that when you finish with the house, its price would increase so that you can pay the principal, all right, and get a profit back, because that's how most of these people think, man. All right, it says margin trading allows you to buy or more stock than you'd than you are able to normally. Okay, not just stocks. It says to trade on margin, you need a margin account. All right, but like I said, it's not just margin because the principle is the same. Buying on margin is borrowing money from a broker to purchase a stock. And let's change that. It says borrowing money from a bank to purchase a commodity. Right? It says this is different. This is different for regular cash accounts, in which you trade using money in the account. It says by law your broker is required to obtain the signature to open the margin account, so on and so forth. All right. So last but not least, okay, I got this. This is the Minsky theory that I had gone through in these 5 major steps. Now I'm gonna just read a little bit of this. I'm not gonna go read all of it. You can check it out for yourself. And it says the financial instability hypothesis has both empirical and theoretical aspects. And it says the readily observed empirical aspects is that from time to time capitalist economies exhibit inflation and debt inflations, all right, which seem to have potential to spin out of control. And it says in such processes, the economic system's reaction to the movement of economic amplifies the movement, right? Inflation feeds up upon inflation, and debt inflation feeds upon debt inflation. In other words, you spiral out of control. And that's what's coming, man. You're going to spiral out of control. It says government intervention aimed to contain the lost my place marker, select, bear with me. It says government intervention, all right, aimed to contain the deterioration seem to have been inept in some historical crises. All right, these historical episodes are evidence supporting the view that the economy does not always conform to the classical precepts of the Smith and Walras. They imply that the economy can be best understood by using that it is simply constant and in equilibrium, seeking a sustaining system. All right, and what he's saying there is, look, the old ways that they told you that this neoclassical what they call the neoclassical economic model, that's just not the case. That's what this particular economist is saying. It's just not the case. You can't just expect it to this thing to ride out. You're gonna have booms and busts. All right, but you're gonna have it to where the government intervenes, and it's important that they say that, because what we've been saying here at JMS, that this time when the government intervenes or this economic crash, all right, that they're gonna intervene and they're gonna offer you the chip, the microchip, the RFID chip as the result out of that. So like I said, I wasn't gonna read that, and hopefully all of that was of edification. So I'll read this one more time. All right, and you should have a good idea of what's really going on out there in terms of the financial world. Like I said, I can't really do these. There's better people for doing these articles out there, but the Spirit jumped on me to do it, and I wanted to do it. Hopefully, Yahabashim Al Shai Ratas, I've done it some justice. So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna read this scripture, and then and I'll give the salute. So it says, go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that come upon you. The riches are corrupt, as you've seen. That's, you know, that's all kind of corruption they're showing you there, that they allowed to go on out there, man. All right, and he says, and your garments are moth-eaten, your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you. All right, and shall eat your flesh with fire. All right, ye have heaped treasures for the last days. Okay, so I'm gonna say, oh, praise unto Yahweh, Shemi Al Shai, double honors the apostles of GMS, and shalom to all you brothers that be pushing this truth in sincerity. You know, honors to you brothers that be pushing this truth in sincerity. Shalom.